Hello and welcome to This Date in History, aka TDH. This show is all about the events that occurred today in years past, both recognized by actual historians, but mainly things I personally find intriguing enough for me to bring to you. The source of this information comes from the smart device application on this day. The music in the background is Adventure by JJD, which I found on the YouTube channel No Copyright Sounds, aka NCS. For links to the app, music, and anything else potentially interesting, check the underbar. Now let's get on with the show, shall we? Today is Tuesday, aka Tuesday, September 13th, 2016. In 2007, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. In 2001, civilian air traffic resumed in the United States after the September 11th attacks. In 1993, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin shook hands with Palestine Liberation Organization Chairman Yasser Arafat at the White House after signing the Oslo Accords, which granted limited Palestinian autonomy. In 1989, the largest anti-apartheid march in South Africa occurred and was led by Desmond Tutu. In 1988, Hurricane Gilbert became the strongest recorded hurricane in the Western Hemisphere, but was later replaced by Hurricane Wilma in 2005. This statistic is based on barometric pressure. In 1987, the Guyana accident occurred, in which a radioactive object was stolen from an abandoned hospital in Guyana, Brazil, which contaminated many people over the following weeks and caused some to die from radioactive poisoning. In 1985, Super Mario Bros. Was released in Japan for the NES, which started the Super Mario series of platforming games. In 1979, South Africa granted independence to the homeland of Venda. However, this is not recognized outside South Africa. In 1971, state police and National Guardsmen stormed New York's Attica prison to quell a prison revolt. In 1968, Albania left the Warsaw Pact. In 1956, the IBM 305 RAMAC was introduced and was the first commercial computer to use disk storage. In 1948, Margaret Chase Smith was elected United States Senator, becoming the first woman to serve in both the U.S. House of Representatives and the United States Senate. Also in 1948, Deputy Premier Minister of India Vallabhbhai Patel ordered the army to move into Hyderabad to integrate it with the Indian Union. In 1933, Elizabeth McCombs became the first woman elected to the New Zealand Parliament. In 1923, following a military coup in Spain, Miguel Primo de Rivera took over and set up a dictatorship. In 1922, the final act of the Greco-Turkish War, the Great Fire of Smyrna, commenced. In 1914, during World War I, South African troops opened hostilities in German Southwest Africa, known today as Namibia, with an assault on the Ramansdrift police station. In 1906, the first flight of a fixed-wing aircraft in Europe occurred. In 1899, Mackinder, Ollier, and Brocherl made the first ascent of Baitian, which is the highest peak of Mount Kenya, peaking at 5,199 meters or 17,058 feet. Also in 1899, Henry Bliss became the first person in the United States to die in an automobile accident. In 1898, Hannibal Goodwin patented celluloid photographic film. In 1862, during the American Civil War, Union soldiers found a copy of Robert E. Lee's battle plans in a field outside Frederick, Maryland. This became the prelude to the Battle of Antietam. In 1850, the first ascent of Piz Bernina, the highest summit of the Eastern Alps, occurred. In 1848, Vermont Railroad worker Phineas Gage survived an iron rod that was 1.24 inches or 3.2 centimeters in diameter being driven through his brain. The reported effects on his behavior and personality stimulated thinking about the nature of his mind and its functions. In 1847, during the Mexican-U.S. War, 6 teenage military cadets known as Niños Herios died while defending Chapultepec Castle during the Battle of Chapultepec. Also, U.S. troops under General Winfield Scott captured Mexico City during this war. In 1843, the Greek army rebelled against the autocratic rule of King Otto of Greece and demanded the granting of a constitution. In 1814, during a turning point of the War of 1812, the British failed to capture Baltimore. During this battle, Francis Scott Key composed his poem Defense of Fort McHenry, which was later set to music and became the national anthem of the United States of America. In 1791, King Louis XVI of France accepted the new constitution. In 1788, the Philadelphia Convention set the date for the first presidential election in the U.S., and New York City became the country's temporary capital. In 1743, Great Britain, Austria, and the Kingdom of Sardinia signed the Treaty of Worms. In 1609, Henry Hudson reached the river that would later be named after him, the Hudson River. In 1541, after 3 years of exile, John Calvin returned to Geneva to reform the church under a body of doctrine known as Calvinism. In 1501, Michelangelo began work on his statue of David. And in 1229, Ogedi Khan was proclaimed Khagan of the Mongol Empire in Kodi Aral Khanate, Mongolia. Birth: Jeff Ross, 1965, John Smith, 1938, Scott Brady, 1924, Charles Brown, 1922, Alexander Schmidman, 1921, Ray Charles, 1918. Deaths: Lisanne Parrish Crooks, also known as Tupac Shakur, 1996. And that concludes the show. Once again, you can check the underbar for any links you may be interested in. Don't forget to look right and left at every intersection, especially if you're playing Pokemon Go. For your dose of past events daily, I am Aeoxander, and you are you. Toodles! In 1850, the first ascent of Piz Bernina. The hell was that?